4, 3, 2, rewind.
Rise of the Fallen, MMO Quest, Pantheon. Once again, time to pledge. Very excited. We're here to talk. Let's get this party to
share your thoughts.
Co-host Derek.
Weekly Adventures, co-host Desiree. We're almost professional.
Full disclosure.
Dangerous combination. Creating content and optimizations. I've got a lore video coming. Cannot wait, which is all about drone fast and some sort of like cake. Mail on a Sunday.
News and notes.
Schedule for this week.
Hot cocoa. All these people.
Supports the show. Adventuring party.
You ready? Let's go.
Let me take a deep breath.
Hello, friends and listeners. Welcome to episode 145 of the Pantheon Plus Rewind, our bi-weekly podcast that brings you the latest on Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, and its community. This episode will bring a recap and discussion of the recent developer livestream, both about the Shaman and a few other bits of info, a late follow-up on VR's Q1 projections, some new stuff from our friend Benonai, and finishing it all off with some of our favorite fanfiction, read by the lore master himself. Stay a while and listen as me, Desiree, and my adventurous co-host Theric take you up into the clouds and then gracefully glide back down to this week's Rewind. Okay, as many of you guys know, we record on Friday. And, what a Friday this is. I'm sure you already have plans. We have I have plans that I'm like split between multiple things. I'm actually really excited because, we get to air this on Sunday for the premiere crew. And I want to hear how like everyone's, weekends went with all the different stuff going on.
Yeah, like the ultimate gaming weekend for so many people. And you referenced it in your intro there. I love how you did that. So you hit the Diablo reference with Stay a While and Listen. And then you did the flying, gliding through the clouds with the Zelda reference. I love it. What a great job. And I'm on the Zelda camp. I know you're on the Diablo 4 testing camp or beta, whatever they're in. Mm-hmm. And I'm definitely doing Zelda with my wife, as I've mentioned before. We started it this morning and we're having fun. We're having as much fun as we'd hoped to.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get back to it. As soon as we're done recording, we're going back for another session. We're diving back in and continuing. So yeah, everybody, what do you if you're here for the premiere, like, what have you been playing? Like, what were you doing this weekend? Because
there's other stuff out there too.
Beautiful. There is other stuff out there too. Yeah.
Actually, this is totally beside the point, but while everyone trickles in here, like, do you feel like suddenly like the gates are opening with like good games or at least like big games this year? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like, MMO wise, I feel like we're in a bit of a waiting period right now because there's some big MMOs on the horizon that are scheduled for 2023 launches, but don't have specific
or
dates
just
yet.
Like soon, like there's it just feels like there's a lot happening all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Because we've had some weird years, right? But
definitely
it feels like I don't know, I'm rather reinvigorated, but also a little bit desensitized, I guess. Because it's like, another incredible looking, game, like MMO or otherwise. It's like I'm not going to be able to play all of them. But
in the non-MMO space, I was talking in Discord the other day about For the King 2, which I got in on the closed beta for, and I've been playing around with a little bit, which it's pretty cool. It's a lot like the first one and with some improvements. So there's that. There's big games coming up. Baldur's Gate 3 is coming up in a few months, 3 months, I think, in August. Sometimes too much of a good thing is a lot to take in, and it can you don't appreciate it as much as when things are sparse, but I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing time. Already looking forward to Summer Game Fest. That's one of my favorite gaming events.
I forgot about
that.
About
a month away.
Yeah.
As a Path of Exile person, I'm excited for it. Grinding Gear Games is going to be on there, so you're looking forward to that. Path of Exile 2 goodness. Among all the big players are going to be there, and it's I don't know. I'm excited just that the industry seems to be like picking up,
and especially for like some of the smaller developers too. Like Hades 2 is coming out, is coming soon, right? Dude, that's a massive game for me. Right. And Supergiant. Like, I just love that they're flourishing. And like, there's lots of little indie games that are, I think, Oh, there was another one I was looking at the other day. I can't remember what it is, but I was just having this sort of thought process go through my head just earlier this week. And it's just, yeah, it's a good time. Good time to be a gamer.
Exactly. It's a great time to be a gamer. And it's a great time to check out our wonderful adventuring party. So
yes. All gamers themselves.
Indeed, very much so. And to start it out, we've got quite the gamers. Not to pick on him, but so we've got Daimlos on the Dark Mer Bard, Breakout on the Archai Shaman, Grogu on the Human Warrior, Anton on the Dark Mer Shaman Glyph Keeper, Ziplocs on the Dark Mer Rogue, Sparrow on the Elf Ranger, Bounty Code on the Human Wizard, Screech on the Scar Bard, WikiWoo on the Human Enchanter, Shuriken on the Dwarf Cleric, Horsosaurus on the Human Warrior, Fury Wrath on the Archai Summoner, Churro on the Halfling Direlord, Galarain Moonsong on the Elf Ranger, Annoying Llama on the Human Monk, and Stands in the Fire on the Dark Mer Cleric. As always, thank you everyone that supports our show in one way or another. If you would like your name read aloud, we've got our Patreon that's now, halvesies because, bi-weekly now. So that's going to be linked in the description if you want to support us that way. But then you could also drop us a super chat in the YouTube premiere or a super thanks in the YouTube comments to get your name on the scrolling banner during the main part of the show. And this is such a fun part of the show.
You know what? I just had a really good idea. It's Mother's Day this weekend, right? So would you like to buy your mom the gift of having her race and class read out on the show? You could go to Patreon and make that happen.
We have enough gaming families now. Like that actually is kind of legit. I would love to read mom names this next episode.
Specifically a mom adventuring party. Let's make that happen.
Oh my gosh, the mom group. Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks a bunch as always, guys. But we've got a bit of an episode to get in here. Not that we're in a hurry to get to other things or anything, but
no, not at all.
Let's move it along.
This week in Visionary Realms news and notes. All right, so we are recapping. Let's start with the May developer stream from VR. This was the one that dropped on Thursday, May 11th on Visionary Realms' Twitch channel. It was the class refresh of the Shaman class. So that was the main thrust of the update. But they started off with some housekeeping matters. Firstly, noting that the hosts are changing. Minus is sticking around, but Ronik has moved back into doing more game development, narrative stuff, which is exciting for him. It's sad to see him go from the show, but fun to get him working in a different capacity, right?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see him get into some narrative work. Obviously, JN can't be the only one writing for the game. Like, there's a lot of game here, and I can't think of anyone on the team more qualified than Ronik.
As a writer, yeah.
We've talked about that a bit, and I always forget his accolades, but it's big stuff. Look him up, like David Schlau. He's done some big stuff, and I think he's going to be perfect for this. But Savanya stepping into the Ronik position.
Now, I don't want to seem too excited about Savanya stepping in because I don't want to denigrate, Ronik, but Savanya stepping in is awesome. She did such a good job on the show last night. I love her tone. I love that she has this like very dry sense of humor.
Yep. Which apparently some of the YouTube commenters don't quite get. So they can
I did see that too.
They can just figure it out.
They're no fun.
Figure it out.
Yeah, they're no fun. They're like, I saw those comments are like, the community manager should be more excited to be there. I'm like, that is why she's great, is because she is excited, but this is the personality.
They just need to actually be a part of the community, because then they'll actually see how amazing she is. She's
all the other stuff
actually perfect for this community. I'm being too nice to her. I got a few sound bites that I passed off to Drac. Hopefully we can put those in, because that was
we need to get those in here.
The first thing is it's like trial by fire. We're gonna cut things out of your with no context, and we're going to use them for our stream. So that's how we say welcome to the party. But yes. Besides the point, like, I know it's not like me to suggest some kind of conspiracy, But here's a nugget just to think about. I'm kind of hoping that the addition of Ronick to the narrative team might be some kind of preparation for them to get started on Perception finally.
Ooh, that's a pretty good speculation, I think. Yeah, boy, because that's something. It's on the roadmap to alpha. They have to get some work.
Let
in
that
on
one
it
simmer
at
a
some
little
point.
bit.
Yeah. It's funny because I've talked to Ronick, a little bit, and we, he knows the lore. Sometimes he gets some of the words, like Minus. That's why they were kind of a good pair. He gets the words mixed up a little bit. I think he referred to the Deicide War as the Decidae War or something like that one time. So it was kind of funny. So
he just needs to be able to spell it. That's all.
Yeah. Or, as Minus said last night or Thursday night, Stanima.
Oh, poor I almost feel bad because, I'm really glad he takes it in stride.
He owns it.
Yeah, he totally owns it. So that's awesome. I always feel weird, making fun of people for their, speech stuff. But he's good about it.
It's part of his character. Anyway, I hope they do get Ronick on the perception system and get some work in on that. I'd love to see some progress made on that.
Same.
Because it's such a big part of the game, and we haven't seen anything in a long time detailing any work on it. And so that's going to be kind of a theme that you're going to hear throughout the show. That
we need those differentiating things. We're starting to get a lot of the basic stuff, but we need the things that make Pantheon.
Yes, very true. So they talked about that, and then they talked about the pre-alpha testing session. That is, they're actually postponing. I'm going to skip ahead in the notes here a little bit because it makes sense, but they're postponing the testing session that was supposed to happen this weekend, that being May 13th and 14th. They're moving it ahead to May 20th and 21st.
Yeah.
And they are adding another ad hoc session today. That's what Desmond
probably right after we're done.
As soon as we're done, yeah. We're not rushing to get this done, but there is an ad hoc session happening today. Basically, they said they wanted to get some things fixed with the technical problems they were having. They didn't, give in too many details, but they said that they wanted to get a chance to tackle it and address it before they got a large amount of people in. Another factor, and they've talked about having new streamers come in. I think that probably played into the decision a little bit. I would imagine.
Yeah.
They want to present a smooth experience for everybody, and depending on who's showing it and what they're doing, not be plagued by technical problems. So they need those numbers, though. They need the big numbers of people, right? So
well, on that note, though, we just came out of the last, the one we streamed. Like they said, we had a full test, no crashes, and going from that to having some issues, it probably is. It's just an unfortunate thing of how it works. And one little kind of extra thing I appreciated on that, in that vein. So even though they've said, so they've reiterated this several times, but it's always worth saying, I think, they do tests to test things. I know that sounds
it seems obvious, but you have to say it. No, you're right. It's not a play session.
It.
It's not a play session. It's a test session.
Exactly. And so, even though we've got monthly test sessions and they've guaranteed that now basically, and in fact they've over delivered on that, right?
I would say
so. But it's not just for the testers to play. Like you said, they actually need the game to be tested for a reason, to do a test. And so it sounds like a full weekend test wouldn't have been super beneficial. So we're doing the little ad hoc test, and we'll do, next weekend for the big test. And that's what's going to give them the best data. And that's what really matters. That they get the data that they need to make the progress as fast as possible. So if they, who knows if they're going to be working this weekend or not, right? But if it doesn't help for them to, spend a whole stinking weekend having to run a PA test, I wouldn't want them to do that. And so I'm actually really glad. I mean, also the selfish reasons, right? But I'm really glad that they just were we're postponing this. I don't think it should be a drama thing. And happily, I haven't really seen any pushback about it at all. I think they did a good job communicating it and everything. So anyway.
I agree. Yeah, I haven't seen any pushback. I think everybody's sort of seeing it the same way, which is positive and beneficial for the game. That they're doing what's best for the game's development, and that's what this is. So, they did run an ad hoc session this week too on Wednesday, May 10th, so they're doing these ad hoc sessions on the fly. They're doing them, sort of as needed. This test during the Wednesday was it was a 9-hour test. They actually implemented a lot of stuff, new things during this one little 9-hour test. There was crafting stuff added. The weapons and armor crafting was now possible. Beyond the optimizations, they talked about the usual optimizations with regard to technical aspects of the game. They introduced an encumbrance system with some bonuses and penalties for the weight you're carrying. They talked about having bags of different sizes and how that can affect your character. I think that's where the penalties and the bonuses come in, but based on your bag size. They did confirm there is no coin weight right now.
Yeah, which I think I think most people are like, okay, awesome. But there's this small contingent of people that are like,
some people
darn, I won't get overburdened with 7,000 copper. Like, I don't know. I don't get that. I'm actually, I don't know if I've just, changed over time, but I'm eager to give feedback on this system. I will say that much.
I would be surprised if they ever went back to adding it in. I don't think there's a big enough voice. There's not enough voices that want that, I would say, and I don't think it's in their vision. I think that having your limited inventory with being able to use your bank in the right capacity is what they want. It's not coin rate. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe they do.
See how this is all functionally, after some testing. Because I was actually, when I saw this, I was like kind of taken aback. I was like, oh, really? But we got to see it play out. And before I can see like the full repercussions and how it's implemented, I'm just going to reserve my judgment. But I'm definitely on the skeptical side because like I hate income. There's some things that I just don't think add to fun in 90% of games. And that's one of them.
Yeah. I was surprised to see that this was even something that they were sort of testing out, to be honest with you. To me, this seems like, a side quest, maybe. I don't know if this is something that they view as being an essential element on the roadmap to alpha, an encumbrance system. I get it. I understand why they want it. Like I said, I get the gameplay elements of it, but to me, this seems like it was a strange thing to hear that is being introduced.
Yeah, and it might have just been something that it's like, hey, we may as well right now. But it just did seem kind of like, okay, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. I don't know if that's like, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but that seems to be a little bit of a commonality sometimes as you see things added into the testing sessions that you're like, I had no idea they were even thinking about doing this. And
exactly.
Then it gets added in and you're like, oh, okay. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. To be honest with you, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't, for something like this, I don't know if it's that big of a deal. Like I'm really, what I would like to see from this is maybe a like postmortem after they add this and then get a bunch of feedback. Like it'd be cool if they, were like, hey, so we were trying this encumbrance system and here's like how it played out and, if it was what they expected, what they didn't, if they made changes. And I love that stuff. As we'll get to, perhaps that would be some good, positive, informative material for content.
You're right, exactly. Anyway. We'll get to that. And they also said on the ad hoc test this week they did some minor changes to the updates to the monk and enchanter classes. So just a few little things there. But again, that was an off the cuff sort of ad hoc test that they ran on Wednesday, and they are doing another one in a few hours here on Friday. So that's happening. That was the housekeeping items that they talked about at the start of the stream. And then they got into the Shaman update. So here's the meat of this monthly developer update. They focused in on the Shaman spells. There was, a lot of them. And I have a hard time, honestly, Desiree, keeping track of them because I don't play that class. So I don't know what's new and what's not new. they did talk about one having like the sort of direct damage spell. I can't remember the name of it, Mark of the Fireclaw, or maybe that's a different one.
Fang of Haroon.
Fang of Haroon, right? So there was we talked about this on Pantheon Plus U a little bit, that they're not adding in. They're adding in some damage, direct damage, but like it's
so funny
new,
because
right?
this isn't new at all. Actually, like this ability's been around for ages. It was funny because there was a little bit of pushback, like a direct damage, and it's literally one ability. One ability. And the point of this ability is it has to do with the boons and banes. And I think just because it's like this is one of the level 1 abilities, and so I think people were surprised. Like, wait, the first ability, one of the first abilities that gets like not even a damage over time. Like, that's so weird. But that's really like the only surprise, it seemed. The rest, anyway. What else were there?
Well, yeah, and we talked about this when we talked about the Dire Lord refresh. The refresh, right? So you assume something's new when it's being.
Well, they
refreshed.
Called this an update. Just I was happy about that.
That's a good point, because you did call them out last time for calling it a refresh. So
good job, guys. Good job. I really appreciate that, and I think I haven't seen anyone freak out about redoing classes this time, and it's literally just the word you use.
That's funny. The other thing is that they talked about, a lot of it. They showed the 1 to 10 kit, and I mentioned this on Pantheon Plus U as well, is that, those time themed spells, the shaman has been dubbed as this master of manipulation of time, and they've had spells listed on the website that deal with going sort of manipulating, going back in time a little bit to a previous location with Mark, oh my gosh, blanking on the name as we speak, of course. I almost let a thing slip there. I know what you're talking about. The one where you mark a location, then you go back. Yeah. It's basically an Echo Ultimate, for people that play League of Legends. Walk the Ages.
Walk the Ages.
Walk the Ages is what I'm thinking of. So there's spells, and we didn't really see any of those in the dev stream this week. So it feels like maybe those are. I lamented the lack of those. Right?
Yeah, and this is a weird one, again, because we're just doing the level 1 to 10 abilities, and I feel like this is going to keep coming up, right? So it's all like really basic stuff. I would just assume that the more advanced and interesting stuff would come after 10, which I'm actually fine with. That makes sense, right? You don't start out with the crazy abilities, because then it doesn't feel like you're progressing as much. But then again, that's the part of the class we're highlighting. And so it's like, I feel like we're kind of doomed to keep getting like these super basic perspectives on these classes.
Maybe they should do, instead of refreshes or updates, maybe they should do, advanced class stuff. Like, here's what you can expect to see from your class. And, in later levels,
just some, because like, they do have some standout abilities, right? Like a few really special things would be pretty cool.
Because they do have some of the kits developed for up to 20, right?
They do.
They talked about that in the past roadmaps. So, I'd like to maybe take it to the next level. No pun intended. That we get some higher level showcases in the future.
Yeah.
So. I was actually kind of the B-roll footage that they showed in the dev stream was pretty cool. It got a lot of, favorable feedback. I think people kind of liked it. And the animations, and I thought looked good, and it seemed like it was smooth and crisp and clean.
Yeah, I noticed was disappointed the frame rate on the video was actually really high too.
Very high. Very high.
As an aside.
No, I noticed it too. It almost felt unrealistic, like it almost felt like it's never gonna look like this.
I don't know. I thought it was great. I had nothing about good things to say about the B-roll. Honestly,
you can't complain when it's high frame rates. I mean, just being
sorry. Another thing that I just remembered that I totally forgot to put in here, and I wanted to again give some positive feedback as well. they talked about the stats. Like when, you mentioned strength or stamina, he described what the stats do, which is, I think, a point of feedback that we gave a while back, as well, that like not everyone even knows what attributes do. So that was another really great thing that I forgot to mention on the Plus U. But that was cool.
Minus does a good job. He does a good job of explaining the nuances of the skills and the spells. He has a good insight and a good ability to make it clear how they work and why they're important and why they can be interesting and engaging to play with, I would say. So I really like his these style of videos. He's done a lot of them, and I feel like they do always come across pretty well and pretty good for explaining a class and what makes it interesting. I was disappointed. What I was going to say is I was disappointed that the human models are still the old models. We still are waiting on those human models, so it's a bit of a bummer.
Yep. I mean, we'll get into that more, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll mention that again in a minute. But if you wanted even more information on the skills, Desrin, your video from our PA test from when we got to stream it did a really good job, I think, of demonstrating. And I think a lot of the comments on your video have pointed out.
Semi-shameless plug, I guess. But I think actually most of the abilities in the dev stream were in my video. As well. Yeah. My descriptions and B-roll obviously weren't as clean, but there's, I would say, more info because there's post level 10 abilities in my stream VOD, right? So if you are curious about maybe some later, more interesting things, just a few levels above, then I highly recommend checking it out because there's more to the Shaman for sure.
Right, and that's the kind of thing, like, VR needs to show that stuff, like we can do it, but VR should do it too. And again, they have to understand the greater audience is maybe people who are just seeing this for the first time, and that's going too far. Maybe, I don't know if that's the thinking, but in any event, it was enjoyable. I thought he did a good job. I stand by that.
The segment itself was great, I would say. For what it was great.
They talked about next month's dev stream, monthly dev stream. So the June update, we're going to get a rogue class update.
I'm sure he's very excited about that one.
Yeah, he's definitely excited. I don't know if I am. I've seen the rogue lots. Rogue's probably been the most demonstrated class out of all the Pantheon classes. So I'm not too excited for next month at this point, just knowing that.
Yeah.
One of the things that came up actually on Pantheon Plus U, which I wanted to point out, we talked about whether they had backstab, like Rogue having backstab, and I just assumed they did, and then we were confused, and I think that sort of comes with the territory of doing these frequent updates and refreshes, is that you forget what's in and what's not.
Yeah, because stuff changes all the time, right? Like it's hard to keep track.
It is hard to keep track. So Minus clarified actually in our chat that backstab was in. It went away when techniques came into play. So you'll remember techniques got introduced, I think, last year, maybe the year before. And then he mentioned as well that it was changed to a buff to make the technique stronger. So backstab is coming back as a skill. So I mean, we'll hear more about that in June, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a nice breakdown as well. And on this note about, we've gotten Dire Lord, Shaman, now we're getting Rogue. Minus kind of let slip. I don't want to say like it almost seemed kind of unintentional, but he said, we only have five more classes to go for these updates, and I think we're both on the same page, feeling like a little mixed about that, because
definitely,
seeing each, at least of the currently available classes, 1 to 10, even if the videos are like super good, which they really are, it feels a little underwhelming, given that the last 2 dev streams have been like primarily focused on the class updates, and if the next 5 dev streams are also going to be more of the same, like it's just a focus on the class update, I'm not super excited. Like there's got to be something else in these streams that has like
There really does.
We just something that has a little bit more weight, some more substance. Not even obviously like class updates, like that's substance. It's just like it's going to drag classes on, when there's other stuff going on with the game. I don't want to like set my expectations or like say, well, they're doing a great job with this. Now more, but like if we're going to do over half a year of just class updates and, maybe a little sprinkling of like, oh yeah, there's this other thing kind of going on. I hope there's more. I hope there's more.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, think about that. That takes us into October for each monthly dev update to be a class that we've seen, has been in. I don't know, man. I don't know. I wish we were getting some new classes. It feels like there's some sort of problem, and I don't know what it is, but I don't know if that's very exciting to anybody to see it, updates, refreshes, whatever they want to call them, on classes that have been in the game now for, the cleric is the most recent one, but most of the other classes I think have been in the game for quite a long time. Yeah. Or at least in the testing environment that they have. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that is soon. Now, having said that, they're going to talk about next week the Druid on Parting the Veil. Well, they're going to talk about healing classes.
It seems like a broad
so be clear.
Parting the Veil.
Yeah, so Minus did say specifically the Druid, though. They'll give some information on the Druid. But will it be, here's what we want to do with the Druid, or here is what's happening with the Druid, where it's at in the game?
Yeah.
My pessimistic self says it's just going to be, here's what we think the Druid looks like and what we want it to look like, rather than like some tangible, the Druid will be in testing coming, and then maybe by the end of the summer, we'll see the Druid. Maybe.
It's hard to say because, when Parting the Veil Live kind of started really getting going, the whole premise was this is our kind of long, this is our thoughts on things. This is the design kind of stuff. But then, the last episode, they kind of dropped the bomb of like, oh yeah, and this is in the game.
The mastery stuff.
So it's hard to say. So my expectations are still like that this is a longer looking kind of update. My guess is it's more just like, hey, we haven't talked about, the Druid specifically in a long time. Here's the current setup, or here's our idea of healers in general, how powerful or whatever. I'm still excited about that, but I do agree that it's not as exciting as if they said we're actually working on class implementations. And we talked about on the Plus U, kind of about like, if it makes sense, if it's justified that they are, trying to keep the classes few so that they can balance easier, and then roll out classes rapidly afterwards. But rapidly is definitely not a very operative word. I think it's safe to say. But I love classes. I'm really curious about the other classes. And you mentioned here that they're like talked about the warrior most recent, right? As if it was like coming soon, and things change, and I'm not going to hold that against them, but I'm very curious about the warrior. It's actually my favorite tank, or the one I'm looking forward to the most, and it definitely sounds like that's just not coming for a long time. And so
yeah I mean, that's I guess what gets to me is that when it comes to the game they're making, this is a game about classes in combat. It's really what it is. I know that there's adventuring, and I know that there's other stuff that I like, but this is a game where about people playing classes they like and doing combat, at the end of the day, that's what this is. So it's just hard that, there's these 5, classes that keep getting talked about over and over again with some changes and some updates and that kind of stuff, without seeing the classes that make up more than half, or are half, I guess, of the entire roster. So
it would definitely breathe some new life if we did have some classes imminently coming,
rapidly leaning in, all that good stuff. So we anyway, a little deflating, but otherwise we'll keep our heads up and let you guys know what we see in here. And
to be clear, I'm still one way or another. I'm really excited to hear about the Druid. Obviously, that's my main. One way or another, I'm really excited to hear what their current take is on it, whether it's imminent or not. Info would be great, but it would be pretty cool if they wanted to drop the bomb of and we're putting them in.
That would be great. I'd be very, very pleased by that. And then again, optimism is what we do. That's why we're Pantheon Plus. We're positive. We try to stay positive and optimistic, but we also keep it real, right? And we got to be honest about how we feel. So and that can change, right? That can change from week to week to month to month.
And, the last episode, I think, is testament to when good things happen.
Yes.
We're really,
celebrate.
really happy.
We celebrate.
Speaking of good things.
Absolutely. Speaking of good things, Savon, you talked a little bit about the website and they're updating it more rapidly and more frequently and actually keeping it current, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm really happy about this. And thank you to Savanya for jumping into this. I really hope that they can do even more with the website because people talk about this pretty often. It's such a big focal point. A lot of people go to the website and it's there's, the most recent news and stuff, but as far as the information on the website, it could use an update and a lot of additions just because, that's what people are going to be exposed to. And it should really, I don't want to say sell the game, but it should really inform you.
It should be something. Yeah, it should be something that you can point people to and say, you want to know about the game? Go here. That's as simple as that. It's not more complicated than that. So good to hear, though. And it's funny how much attention this got in the dev stream when it was really just a sort of footnote almost. But we were getting new lore from JN. Dude. So, it's part one of a story is how they described it. And I speculated a little bit on Plus U to, what that might be. I went back and listened to it again and looked at the chat. Nefel, he says, nothing's going to upset Theric for the rest of the weekend. Now he knows there's new lore coming and you're 100% right.
Yeah, probably on Tuesday.
Tears of the Kingdom could be a total bust.
But it Tuesday? Won't be though. But yeah, I think this is supposed to be coming Tuesday. It's replacing the PA summary that Savanya usually does.
Okay. How did I miss that? Jeez, Louise, I missed it's coming out on potentially next week already.
So, pretty stoked about that. It's kind of funny. Of everything in this dev stream, I think this is actually the most exciting.
I know. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just know it is what it is. These lore stories bring me right back into feeling it.
Yeah.
They bring me right back to why I got involved in following this game and creating content about this game way back, when that it was the lore that brought me in. It was reading it and the feelings and the things that he talked about and the way he described things and the intricacy. So we're going to get a new story, and these kind of stories take time. So again, that's, I just cannot wait to hear what it is. And I'm going to give it all the, the treatment that I've done in the past when we read Tales from the Fire and the one about Dothane, and both Tales from the Fire 1 and 2. So yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, me neither.
So yeah, so that was the monthly dev stream, and that's the meat of it. Anything else there, Des, you wanted to add before we move on to the next piece I want to talk about here?
Let's move on to this next piece.
Okay. Now, we've been promising this for a while, so we wanted to do a look back at the last 4 months, because when Visionary Realms started the year, January 2023, they gave us an outlook on their developmental plans and basically saying, what they wanted to focus on. And it was kind of noteworthy at the time because they're not really good. They don't share dates. They don't give us time frames usually on what they want to do. And again, I'm being mindful of the words they used. They didn't say this is what we want to get done. This is their focus.
Right.
This is what they are putting resources towards, I think is fair to say. And we talked about this on a previous Rewind Does, and we sort of came to that conclusion that that's what they were talking about. So you can interpret that in your own subjective manner, but I think that's the fairest assessment of it. So let's look back. Let's look back over the roadmap for the past 4 months and see, what they've got done or what they've focused on. And if we've seen any evidence of that focus, I guess is the way it plays out. So if you look back, there are 5 areas that they identified. The first one was looking at Vinyl, their proprietary networking library. They wanted to focus on the implementation of the MMO-specific aspects of it, is the way Joppa described it, activating those. And it broke it down into 3 sort of subcategories, I think. So seamless zones was the first one. This was something they talked about being really high on, not having these traditional zone lines, creating an immersive experience and not hitting that loading screen all the time, making the world more dangerous, all that kind of stuff. They haven't really talked about this since. So in the pre-alpha sessions that they've shown, there's only been the one zone. So if they have done work on this, it hasn't been shown, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way you could put it. We know they've been working on other zones, like as far as constructing them. Avendir's Pass and Wall's End have been mentioned quite a few times. But yeah, sadly, even if they've gotten them constructed, it's a bit unfortunate that we haven't been able to see it and I guess celebrate it in action. That step from Thronefast to Avendir's Pass, for example. But they are done. They are done with it, right? As far as the roadmap goes, it's not something that's still being worked on, I guess. I don't know
if that's clear. I don't know if that's 100%. I don't know if that's my takeaway from it.
Yeah, it's more of an assumption than anything. And that's kind of the weird, hazy part of it that's not great.
Right. So this is subcategory 1 of the Vinyl post implementation stuff is the seamless zones. So the question is, have we seen seamless zones? Have they talked about it at all? No. So we don't know. The next one was the persistence architecture. And this is probably the biggest win for them in terms of the focus spent. They really wanted to target their persistence architecture for the last quarter. They summarized this basically, and it's a real bad summary, but basically making sure your character's constantly preserved and backed up, and everything in the world that happens stays, as happened. So I went back and actually looked at the newsletters from February, March, and April to get a sense of whether or not what they said about this. So if we go from most past, distant to current, look at the February newsletter. Under this category, they said the character data and group persistence architecture was completed. Okay, so that's February. And then in March, they said further optimizations to their persistence server have been rolled out, and the dev and test environments in preparation for what would have been at that time the April pre-alpha test. And then in the April newsletter, they said persistence architecture optimizations were a complete success. They had their first crashless 24-hour test with approximately 350 players in the same zone. Obviously, that's the kind of evidence, that's the kind of stuff that we would be looking for, right?
I mean, that is obviously a bit of of course, they need to do this, silly little checkbox to make this an MMO. But as far as the information that we have, which is actually, I would say this is great. This is enough for me. I would say maybe minimal, but it's enough. But it seems like this is up and running. It's also came with some big performance improvements as well, and stability, obviously, for the persistent stuff. This is a huge win, and I would like to maybe celebrate this a little bit more. But yeah,
Agreed.
It's enough. But I mean, it's something that I think we could all share in the happiness of woohoo, everything's saving and the characters aren't having weird issues. I don't know. It's kind of, it's weird to celebrate the not messing up, right?
But it is what it is. And to me, it's just a matter of showing the work, right? This is, we can clearly see a progression of the last 4 months of work in how they've detailed it in the roadmap. And I think this is one of the most fundamental aspects of the MMO that they're building.
Yeah.
Is this architecture.
Well, and also just on that note, it's good to flex their strengths. And one thing that I'll kind of throw back to, I think this was last month when they talked about, they had 350 or how many people, in the zone at the same time. And previously there was over 500. And I think those are like things that they kind of can, like, I guess flex a little bit and be like, yeah, like, we've got this working. This is running super well. Like, it would be pretty fun if they even said, like, here's how much headroom we have on the servers, like, because they're running so good with all this stuff that we've implemented. Like, again, just something to celebrate. Not that they need to boast a bunch, but like, games struggle with this. I mean, like, this is stuff that is not easy. It's not trivial. And that they have this in the bag now to some extent, right? Like, that's something that should maybe be talked about a bit more.
Take your wins, right? Because you're going to have some losses too. And, another item that was on the list as sort of the sub items was cross-zone communication. And this falls into the previous category, like, there is only one zone. Right?
Yeah, what are you going to you can't show it.
We haven't seen.
Right? Like,
yeah, and Joppa basically lumped in the looking for group tool, and there's been nothing in the past 3 months about the looking for group tool that's been talked about. So it doesn't, this isn't a win, but it is something that, we can acknowledge that, you can't do everything, I guess, that maybe is what this is going to come down to, is they couldn't do everything they wanted to, but what they were able to do was successful.
That's a good way to say it, honestly. Yeah.
Another, so the second major area they wanted to focus on was crafting and gathering. And I think we can really, I think we both agree that this is a win, major progress. So Nefel, aka, David Beach, their designer that's been working on the crafting and gathering systems, has been super hard at work. A lot of progress. We mentioned at the outset that the new systems are already coming in with regard to crafting armor and weapons and that kind of thing. They added in wood cutting, they added in cooking, metalworking. All those things are new in the last 3 or 4 months. And I mean, it's a win. And some people love crafting, some people don't. But no matter whether you like it or not, in terms of the game they're developing, you can't deny it's a big part. They made progress.
Yeah, and that's the really fun thing about this. I mean, David's been on the team for a while, but like, the fact that there's been a ton of work put into this and that there is I would say a very healthy amount of progress. I love that it's kind of coming together now, I know it's weird to say that it's early. I know people are going to flame for that, right? But it's more that it's a core part of Pantheon, and I'm just so glad it's not like something that gets slotted in later on, because obviously it's a huge part of the economy, the just general gameplay. It's going to have sweeping effects on itemization. And so, again, this is something we should totally celebrate because it's coming along really nicely. I really hope that we can get a follow-up on this, maybe after they have some more bits, because it's actually really exciting. And I also just like Nefel's really great on the streams, right? But, after we get some more professions in and, maybe give some examples of the whole process, and it would just be, again, let's celebrate the stuff that we're doing really well, right? Like, but yeah, this is in the yay, like, super win for me.
Yeah. It's on the plus side of the ledger for sure. The third item that they wanted to focus on was artwork. And they said that before, they wanted to focus mostly on points of interest in Avenir's Pass in terms of their artwork. Specifically, Hangor and Mad Run were two specifics that Joppa named. They talked about distributing flora. They said they had some kits, that they could apply to other areas that they had used in Thronefast. We haven't seen this in any developer live streams or any of the monthly newsletters talking about AVP. We haven't seen any new pictures or artwork or screenshots from that area. They did recently post a job listing for a new character artist, and I think they've actually hired that.
Yeah,
right?
I'm actually really excited about this one. I don't think I can talk about it yet. If you're on the Pantheon Discord, keep an eye on the right side. And you'll see I really can't wait for them to officially announce this. And I'll keep my mouth closed till that.
Yeah, look for those pink names. They are.
Yeah,
there might be some new ones.
They are also looking for animator and rigger to fill the shoes of Ross, which we talked about on the last episode, and a tech artist as well. Though in thinking about that, I'm not sure. So the tech artist isn't posted separately, And so I'm kind of wondering if they're looking for a tech artist that can also rig and animate, which isn't actually, it's not that unusual. So, yeah. But on the note of art, though, the team of artists is there and it's growing.
They're there, but we just haven't seen anything.
Yeah,
I mean, you'd agree
so
with
we just have to assume that they're kind of just plugging away, right? There's been a few little bits in the roadmap. Like, I can't discount all of that, but as far as seeing it, like, we're in May, you know, and it would be cool to get a little maybe just a little sneak peek. You know, don't have to show the whole zone. Just little tiny updates would be pretty nice. So speaking of,
just what are the fruits of your labor? You know, like you chose this as an area of focus. What has that focus produced?
Yep.
You know, I think that's what we need to, that's what this is all about in some respect. The fourth area they wanted to focus on was zone development. And specifically, they cited Silent Plains as being a zone that was under construction, right? So we talked about this before, that we got that wide angle shot of Silent Plains in 2022. And they didn't say it's going to be done, but they wanted to make significant progress on it. And it's all silent on the Western Front.
Yeah. I mean, we got that bit of concept art. I can't remember if that was this year or last year, with the tents and stuff and the Sky Durban and
Skyderman. That was last year.
Well, okay. Then but like we were just talking about, like I'd assume they're still working on it. And you know, we've been told there's updates on Wild's End and Navigator's Pass. But if they said they're going to be moving to Silent Plains, we really haven't seen that, even in the roadmap updates. Like, so,
like they've said that they've dropped a couple names with regard to like creatures and stuff that they're working on. Remember but those aren't specifically, you know, that's not Silent Plains. It's just there's maybe some stuff out there that, you know, we're working on. I'm thinking back and thinking about the gas bat and the what was the other one? The Ogrim that we talked about, I think, last show. So maybe you can sort of slide those into pieces of art if you really wanted to.
I mean, they talked about a lot of updates to like Flora and stuff for Avenues Pass, and like they've specifically noted like things in that realm, but they're just notes right now. So
just notes. So the last area is player models, and we touched on this earlier. They said that Kyle Olson, their lead programmer, is working on the integration of those human models and the animations as well. They talked a lot about sort of really wanting to focus on that. We heard about the Darkmer models being finished, and once the human models are implemented, those will follow. And this one's, you know, it's fairly easy to say that whatever work has occurred, we haven't seen it. Again, nothing been shown to show the focus of that, the product of that focus. Like you said, they're hiring an animator and rigger, so maybe that has something to do with it. I kind of wonder about the tech or the staff changes they've had. Maybe the turnover a little bit and the new additions has delayed some of these areas. But
that is,
again, not a win category on this one. I don't think.
And I mean, I know we're kind of kicking a dead horse because I feel like this comes up every episode now, but I can't stress enough how big of a deal that these new models are going to be. Like we all know, like the tastes that we've seen are really exciting. Like it's going to be a game changer. It's just really unfortunate that the communication wasn't super clear about when, you know, quote unquote complete, like would actually be for, you know, the whole package. Like the models may be done, but obviously there's a ton of other work that needs to be done as well that we didn't really know about as far as like the, you know, what was communicated. So then they've come up and be like, there's, you know, animation and rigging that actually needs to be hooked up. And like, I think Kyle might be working on the character controller or something, but like, this is just one of those big things I think everybody's been super looking forward to. So when it comes, like, I'll be happy. I'll be super stoked. And basically everything before is probably just going to slip away into like, oh, I don't care anymore. But I just really hope that they know that, or that they've learned that even followers of the project are going to get confused as to why they're not in game yet. Like after the hype of them last year, I don't know. My here, I'll try to be optimistic. This is me trying to be optimistic. Maybe once Kyle like hooks it up, maybe we'll just get like the first 3 all at once, and it'll be like, yeah, like super cool. But at this point, I know they've been working on so much like armor and weapons and animations and all this stuff that like we just don't get to see because that's all new model stuff, and it's going to be big when it gets here. It's just I lament how it's played out, I guess.
Yeah. Then the question is, when will it get here? If you're going to talk about it, have a timeline you can communicate to people and tell people when to expect, because once you do this, and they've learned this lesson in the past, that they've gone through this before where they've said something was happening and then, they ran into some issues and they weren't really clear about why it wasn't happening. Right. So let us know, tell us what's going on. Why are we not seeing them? Like, what's the deal? Because it just leads to unfortunate, speculation and confusion by even the most, strident follower of the game.
Yeah.
And you just don't want that.
They did communicate, that they're kind of, it's a bit on Kyle, right? At the moment. I wouldn't say that's sufficient to make up for how it sounded the process was going to be last year. But my assumption is that Kyle's probably focused a lot on all those optimizations and stuff now. And it would just be good to know, like, the priority there. And like if they're just holding until they can get 3 or whatever in all at once because it's going to be hooked up, like just a little note on that would be cool, just so we know what to expect. Like I'm okay with waiting as long as they tell us like why.
Well, as long as we have some sort of idea of how long we will be waiting for. Like, give us, I know the timelines, man. I know you don't like to do them, but you gotta give some sort of expectation as to when, we might see this. And same thing goes for the other classes, like when might we see these classes? You mentioned them, but it's just throwing it out there and then it just sits there and starts rotting in the sun because people don't know. Right. So it's frustrating because I liked the quarterly preview of what they were focused on. And I thought that was really important at the time. I thought it was a trend in the right direction.
I was kind of hoping, I mean, we kind of talked about this the last like show or two, but like, I was kind of hoping this was like a thing, like, right. Like we're going to do quarterly, recaps and stuff. And, quarters passed and we're just we're just doing class updates now. Like that sounds really bitter.
Yeah. No, but you're speaking from the heart, and I think you're speaking off. You're speaking from a place of like, this is what I think, and that's you're not wrong. I mean, you have to be genuine in your perspective, and I think that's a genuine perspective. So, you look back at this outlook, and you look at these 5 items, and we've seen evidence of progress on 2. And that's maybe even being that's giving the vinyl piece, the persistent server piece, credit for the whole thing of the vinyl server, the vinyl implementation piece. So even crediting that a little more than the whole thing. Crafting and gathering is the other big one, definitely a win. So great wins there, good stuff. We haven't seen any of the other stuff really demonstrated. And again, doesn't mean they weren't focused on them. I want everybody to understand that we're not saying that it was BS and they weren't focused on them. It's just that it's put out there, like I said, and you expect to see something
communicated. So anyway,
we talked about it at the beginning of the year, you and I, Desmond, about these monthly PA tests being a chance to showcase their progress. And, the PA tests have been great. We mentioned it before. It's a new era of Pantheon as a fan, as a PA tester, that these have become so commonplace now that we're getting 3 ad hoc tests in a week kind of thing, and that's great. And it's where the game should be at. But we're not seeing the showcasing of some of these items that they've mentioned being their focus. So I think that's a fair way of putting it. Maybe I'm being harsh. It's for me, my personal feeling is it's been a little bit of a little grindy lately in terms of trying to keep the excitement going. And that's, again, being honest, but I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, man.
So yeah. Okay. Good. Any final comments before we wrap up the news and notes with some good news? Anything else from you?
I would say I'm glad we have, going back to, our kind of like just shooting the stuff intro, like I'm glad it's a good year for games because I'm happy to wait for Pantheon. They need time, small team, they need time. I've been okay with waiting. And I'm happy that there's plenty of stuff that I get to play in the meantime while I patiently wait.
That's a great point. That's a great
And so
point.
I'm still happy. I would say I'm still happy. There is progress, and I feel like we can celebrate, and we can also expect more. So,
very well said. Very well said. So let's end on some really exciting news. That's the giveaway they did this month for the next pre-alpha session. They gave away 3 of those single passes, and let's shout those folks out. Chad Morse was one. Another one was William Barnes, and the third one is somebody we know very well. It's a friend, Redbeard Flynn.
Oh, dude, this was so exciting. Like I almost was like,
it really was.
Oh man, like all that Patreon money we sent to VR, like it finally paid off. I'm totally kidding, by the way.
Right.
Never do that.
But hey, man, you know what? Like this is the kind of thing that I love to see because Redbeard Flynn has been a big fan, a big part of the community. He's somebody who creates a lot of content. He's done lots of Pantheon content, and he's been sort of like held back because he's not in the pre-alpha testing. So now he gets to finally experience, and I don't know about you, Des, but I definitely remember the first time I ever logged into the game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like in whatever state it was in.
Same.
What a feeling that was. Like for me, that was like a moment where you heard the music and you're like, oh, this is what I've been seeing on streams. This is what I've been seeing other people do.
And I am fascinated and anticipatory for Red's first impressions. Like I want to honestly, I want to be there with him, like as he experiences this. Like I don't want to, force anything on him, but like I am so interested to get his unfiltered. This is what I'm feeling right now.
His take.
New perspectives are so important because we have a lot of veteran testers, and let's just be honest there. A lot of people that have been following this game for a long time, they've just trickled into VIP or PA testing by this time. Lot of people have just ended up finally getting into PA normally. And so I'm just so stoked for Red, and I can't wait to hear his experience. And it would be really cool if you could share it publicly, but
Dude, that's the dream, right? That's what I want to hear next, is that he's maybe one of those future streamers that they have talked about, but that's, wait and see, I guess. Maybe that's just a dream at this point. So so that's good news to end on the VR news. Let's quickly look at Pantheon Plus and what we're doing this week. We got our calendar up, as you can see here, and the Monday Night Crew is playing some Embers Adrift. They've been having a good time with that. I know that Drax's been really getting back into that game, and there's a lot going on with Embers Adrift right now in terms of new content. Their content creator program is going strong. I think they're talking about doing some fun events coming up. I think we're going back into Embers Adrift as the 101 and 201 groups, potentially in the next little while, maybe in the next month or so.
That's a little bean.
That's still in the works. Yeah, a little bit of a bean. Yeah, it's not confirmed yet, but I know we're talking about it. So look for that. We're still playing Lotro Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. We are going to continue to do that next week. If you've been watching, we're in the 56 to 58 range right now, aiming towards get to 60 so we can do a level 60 raid, come together as 2 groups again. But for now, it's still Tuesday and Thursday nights on our Twitch and YouTube channels, 9 p.m. on Tuesdays and 7 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel on Thursdays. Coming up this week, Desrin, you are doing Pantheon plus YouTube.
That's right. And this is probably going to be a really fun one. We talked about stuff earlier. I'm going to roll with it. I think I'm going to try to just take it for what it is, in isolation, celebrate fun stuff that we get to find out, and have a great time with the community. We got a lot of druids in the community, so I hope we get a lot of people in the green room, the green room, because druids. And it's going to be a fun time. So show up for that, please.
Yeah. And I know Mana Rohan is very excited about the healers in Pantheon. So you and him and Redbeard Flynn will be there for Thursday. So make sure you tune into that after Parting the Veil to catch Desert and the boys there doing Pantheon plus U2. On Saturday, our friends Sarah and Essen are streaming on Twitch. That's 9 p.m. Eastern on Sarah's Twitch channel, which you can find linked in the show notes. They were playing some Divinity 2. I think they played last weekend, and we're playing it again this Saturday and the following Saturday, so check them out. And on Sunday, we are back with another episode of Quests and Coffee, playing Solasta Crown of the Magister. We missed out on having Sparrow with us last week.
Yeah.
Our friend Grogu took over the druid duties in that stream, but she's going to be back. We're going to be continuing our main storyline quest in that game. We're having a ton of fun.
Good.
So
it's so
really
good.
enjoy it. It's so like narrative heavy, and those cutscenes where the characters are talking, they go on for such a long time. It cracks me up
that bothers you. Like
no, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. I understand, but it would bother some people. It honestly doesn't bother me because it just makes me laugh. But I think as a viewer, people, watching people play a game where you're just watching some characters talk.
I don't know. I'm having a good time because the dialogue is always so funny.
It's hilarious, and it's sometimes unintentionally hilarious. That's what makes it so funny. So yeah, it's a good time. So Quests and Coffee, that's going to be next Sunday at noon, noon Eastern on our YouTube channel. We'll be streaming that. And then the last thing I want to mention here, and it's not on the calendar because it's an upcoming thing, but our friends, the EQ Neckbeards that are part of our community, that is Drac and Nathan Napalm, are going to do another No Sleep Till 50 when the next EQ TLP server launches. So what they're doing this time is they're leading 2 separate groups and racing to see who can get to 50 first. And apparently the loser has to play some truly horrible MMOs. Think My Little Pony, thinks
Star Stable. Star Stable. It's been around for a long time. Horse game.
I gotta look that up. Is it a horse game? Star Stable?
Yeah.
That sounds
I actually know
bad.
someone that has played a lot of it. Anyway. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm actually super stoked.
Do you secretly play it? I know you do. You secretly play it.
Well, I mean, you saw my Barbie game. Like, wouldn't be a surprise.
No, probably not, actually.
Yeah, this is actually a super fun take on this, and I really want to be around for this and maybe make some lighthearted bets.
Yeah, that's what I was saying last night on Plus U, is that we should be doing some in-gold betting, to see who can do what and who gets there first. And I'll be your bookie, if you want to do an in-game. No, I won't actually. I'm not committing to that. I shouldn't say that. So don't start sending me your prop bets for their adventures. But it's happening Wednesday, May 24th, when the TLP server launches, through to Sunday, May 28th. See how far they can go. Watch them, ridicule, and love them. That's our motto. So looking forward to that a lot. So yeah, that'll be it for this episode's VR News and Notes.
The Pantheon community is full of cool projects, new people, and things that are just worth sharing. What's this over here? Look at that. So let's see what we can find in this week's Community Spotlight. All right, everybody. We're back to normal this week. The content boom did not last.
It didn't last. Yeah. No, it died away.
But it's fine. Not every episode can be such a banger as the last one. But we still have some great stuff from our friend Benonai, and Benonai is continuing his Amensol Shadow in the Shadow of the Sun series. And this time we've got part 5 and part 6, and part 6 is the finale. And I was actually just catching up on the last one earlier today, and man, I'm always just so impressed by like the narration and like atmosphere of these. It's just it fits so well with the stories, and like even I'll be honest, like I'm not always listening super to the story, but it's almost like just a vibe. And I love it, especially in the Shadow of the Sun with the accent, the kind of Western kind of. I don't know why. I'm loving it, and so it's really cool. Like finale here, And if you're not catching up with Amensol's Shadow or anything from Benonai, you really should. It's just something really great to have playing, and yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big undertaking. Like he's written a full novel basically, and drop a little bit of a bean here, but there's other stuff in the works that
very excited
he's working
about.
on. Big project he's working on, and when I can talk about it, I will, because I think we're going to be involved in some capacity. But he's undertaken this massive work, and this is what I feel like people. This is sort of tangential, but I feel like people should, if you get bored or you get tired or you get frustrated with Pantheon's development, do something like this. It just keeps you occupied. Just do something like this to take your mind off it and keep yourself moving forward mentally, I guess.
Well said, man. Well said. But but indeed, that is actually going to be it for this week's Community Spotlight.
And now, story time from our fans of fiction. All right, well, speaking of fan fiction, another one of our favorites is on tap today. We are finishing Chapter 2 of Silver and Riddles by fan fiction author and our friend Fate. So in Part 1, we heard about Tyrion's return home after an unsuccessful but not entirely uninteresting wraith hunt. We met Taryn and Soreen, her associates, and they received an order from Sorhireth with special instructions for Tyrion's talents to be employed. So Tyrion discovers that there's like this silver tea set waiting for her in the workshop from the King's Reach famous masterwork crafters. They're called Weed Whips. And she's tasked with engraving this set. And we kind of wonder, it's kind of left a little unclear whether it's an invitation to do the engraving or maybe there's something else going on. So Tyrion is sort of wondering. Remember, if you think back to Chapter 1, she received a coin from a mysterious elf figure she met on her hunt. And she takes the coin out and starts to begin her engraving work. And that's where we pick up the story. So listen along as I read the remainder of Chapter 2 of Silver and Riddles by Fate. Time slipped past me. When I step out of my workshop, the tea set is complete. I find Taryn and Soreen once again eating breakfast, and sitting very close to each other. I give that a small smile, but make no comment as I sit down and dig into breakfast. Leftover rabbit stew in a bread bowl. That's not very healthy, sister, Taryn says. I'm too tired to come up with a quip. I can't put it down once I'm inspired, Soreen glances over at me. You finished the whole set? She asks. Can I see? Yeah, sure. It needs to be repolished. Would you mind, once you're done eating? Of course, she says, but jumps up anyway and pushes into my workshop. She flings open the shutter to let some morning sunlight in. Did you have to spin the coin all night? I swear I heard that sound in my sleep. The coin? Did I spin it the whole time? I don't remember. You don't? Tyrion, it's still spinning. Before I can respond, Soreen comes running out of my workshop. Tyrion, this is amazing. You did this in one night? She sets down the tray from the set. A bramble fan vine grows out of a corner. The twisting trunk, made of many vines, crawls around the edge of the tray before curling back on itself and terminating in a single bloom of claw blossom. The vines part in several spots, leaving voids in the design. Soreen sets down the teapot in the center of the largest void. Vines across the body of the teapot connect to vines on the tray, forming a seamless transition. Looked at from the right angle, the design of the tray would be unbroken. Soreen and Taryn stare at it for a moment. I continue to eat, but the sound of the still spinning coin is loud in my ears now. Bramble fan? Taryn says. That's a choice. The world isn't all rainbows and ulan trees. Art should reflect that. Soreen nods, distracted by trying to trace all the vines. After a moment, Taryn nods too. I stand up, done with breakfast. I start to speak but pause, then go into my workshop and grab the spinning coin. The silence leaves a slight ringing in my ears. I'm going to get cleaned up, I say. Soreen, could you give it a quick polish and pack it away for me? Of course, Serene picks up the tray and the teapot and squeezes past me into my workshop. I'm going to travel to Sorhirith. I'll deliver my work today. I want to see their workshop and visit an old friend. I'll have them send the platinum here, though. Tarrant nods and frowns. Not that old rogue. Why would you spend so much time with him? Vork? He teaches me some interesting things. I wanted to ask him about the coin, though. He'll probably know more about it. Well, I hope he tells you to throw it out. Maybe he will, I say as I start up the stairs toward my room. But I don't think it'll be that easy. And that is the lore you know. And that is episode 145, Desert.
It's another one in the bag.
It's good to be back every 2 weeks. Another one in the bag, yep. We're moving slowly and surely towards 150, as you probably can figure out if you're any good at math.
It actually, I was thinking about this when I was writing the script earlier. I was like, we're kind of moving like twice as slow now, as far as like, the number ticking up. It doesn't really mean anything. But I don't know. I think we're still on the right pacing. We had kind of the boom of last, episode, but it's a bit of a lull, and then I think we're going to stick to bi-weekly for a while.
I think so too. Yep. That's a good point, and I think it's working. I think it's working. The cadence seems to be working for us. I actually looked at the calendar to find out when episode 150 will be. So with every 2 weeks, it's going to be at the end of July. And we are going to do something really special. We're going to do something really fun. Desert's like, what the hell are you talking about? We haven't talked about this at all.
In the notes.
I do this all the time to him, right? I'm like, hey, Desert, like I'll say it on the show and then we'll talk about it afterwards. We're like, oh, we should figure that out. But I've got some ideas and we're going to talk about this. And Desert and I are going to make this a real big event. It's going to be fun. And there's been some ideas thrown out in the chat the last couple of weeks during the premiere that I think if you go back and look at that, maybe you'll see where we're headed. But we'll leave it at that for now. As you know, we'll be back in a couple of weeks and we'll be reviewing the May newsletter from the producer's letter from VR. So looking forward to that. Checking out the roadmap to alpha. As always, maybe starting some new lore, reading some fan fiction. Maybe we'll have JN's
I think we will.
Piece to talk about. Yeah. Oh, exciting. Anyway, thank you everyone for being here. Really enjoy doing the show, having you all on premiere for the premiere and having you in chat or just listening afterwards. Make sure, please, if you like the show, do share it. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If it's on your podcast feed, leave a review on whatever podcast platform you listen on and then share it with a friend. So we really appreciate it. And with that, thank you everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks everybody. See you on the flip side.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Pantheon Plus Rewind. Pantheon Plus is not affiliated with Visionary Realms. Be sure to check out our Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube channels under the name Pantheon Plus. You can follow Theric at Pantheon Theric on Twitter, and Desrin at DesrinDoes also on Twitter. And you can stay up to date with all things Pantheon at www.pantheon.plus. Until next time, cheers, and thanks for listening.